Hello, my name's Anthony Allen. Welcome to this YouTube channel, Anthony Allen Edits, the YouTube channel that will help you edit so that you can tell the stories that you want to tell in the way that you would like to tell them. And here in this video, we're going to be doing part 3 of a 10-part series that I have running here on my YouTube channel, and it is a part of a 10-part series for Final Cut Pro 10 beginners. So for those of you who are new to Final Cut Pro 10, this series is going to be absolutely brilliant for you. It's going to get you started on the right foot. And here in this episode of our 10-part series, we are going to be talking about and looking at and showing you how to use workspaces and how to customize your workspace to suit you and to suit your needs so that you have a quick editing workflow, as opposed to being really confused as to what you're seeing on your browser when using Final Cut, so that your workspace will be much easier to have a look at. So without further ado, I'm going to show you Final Cut Pro 10 now. We're going to start a project. I'm going to show you how to customize your workspace. Now the first thing to do here is to open up Final Cut Pro 10 and start up a new project. Now if you're not sure what to do when starting up a new project and what settings to set your project into and how to get started, go back to part 1 of this 10-part series that I'm running here on my YouTube channel. It should be available on my channel in a playlist called Final Cut Pro 10 Beginners or something around the sort, and part 1 is where we tackle how to get started with your project. Now we've already got past that stage, so we're here. So what we've got now is we've got a workspace. All of this is the workspace. Now I'm going to begin with a piece of media. So I'm going to put a piece of media into the timeline. Now I'm just going to go into a generator and I'm just going to insert a generator. For example, this, let's give blobs. I'm going to put blobs just to have something already in the timeline so that we can see that the inspector is inspecting something. So what do I mean by a workspace? By workspace, I mean these windows that you're seeing here on screen. Right here is the browser window. And then we have the inspector. As you can see now, we're not selecting anything in the timeline, so it says nothing to inspect. Then we have the effects panel and transitions panel. And we also have a timeline. All of these things are placed for you, but you can actually have a lot more things going on. For example, video scopes and more that can make things look even more complicated and overwhelming. So first, what I'm going to do is, so that I don't confuse you too much, I'm actually going to get rid of the video scripts because we're not on that stage just yet. We're going to mess around with how you can move things around and reshape things and close things down so that you know what you're looking at is what you need. Now we've already inserted a piece of media. We've inserted a generator. So the first thing that we're going to get rid of, I'm going to show you how to get rid of, is our browser panel. In the way you do that is, number 1, there is a shortcut. We're going to show you the shortcut. Up in the top right hand corner of the screen, these 3 icons are the 3 main things on your screen. Let me show you. For example, if I hover my mouse, it should give me what it is called. So there we have the browser window, and it's showing me that I can show and hide the browser window by clicking this icon. It's also showing me the shortcut right next to that of how I can do that with the keys. Now in our case, we're just going to click it. Now that has got rid of our browser window. This has left us with a preview window and the inspector. Now as you can see at this point, the second icon has become unavailable. This says show or hide the timeline. Then it gives the shortcut for that. But when you've got rid of the browser, it's not giving you the option to show or hide the timeline. So at this point, we're going to bring our browser back. Now we're going to click on the second icon, which is to show or hide the timeline. Now we've completely hidden the timeline. At this point, we have a browser, a preview window, and the inspector. Now at this point, it's still allowing us to get rid of the inspector, which is the last icon here. So we're going to click on this. Now at this point, you have no timeline to import your media, but you have the titles and generators absolutely huge. This gives you the option of scrolling through these with a lot of space. So now let's bring absolutely everything back. So at this point, we've shown you how to get rid of or hide the browser, the timeline, and the inspector using these 3 icons at the top tab of Final Cut Pro 10. But there is another way to do this, and another method that you can use that will give you even more options, and that is to go all the way up to the top tabs and going to Window. Now from here you want to go down to Workspaces, and as you can see you have various things in your workspace. There are different templates that you can set up, but we're not going to touch those. We're actually going to go up to Show in Workspace. Now here you have ticks. Now these ticks are basically what your Final Cut Pro 10 is already showing. We have a sidebar, the browser, the inspector, the timeline, audio meters and effects. Now you can get rid of the effects by pressing the effects panel. But another way you can do this is going up to this effects icon here and clicking it. That will bring it back. Clicking it again, will unhighlight this icon and actually make it hidden. So that is how you can hide and show the effects panel. Now this is our audio meter. We can go up to the top tab here, to Window, Show in Workspace, Show in Workspace, and hit audio meters. That has now gotten rid of the audio meter on our timeline. So if you don't like that and you don't like to look at the levels of your audio, or there's no need to, you can actually hide this. Let's go all the way back up to the top again, back to Window and back into Workspaces. Now we have the timeline itself. Now we already know that using the middle icon of the top right hand corner will actually hide the timeline, and the far right icon on the icons in the top right hand corner will also get rid of your inspector, which is what we've shown you at the start of this tutorial. If you click either one of those, you will get rid of the inspector. Sorry, not either one. If you click the inspector, it will get rid of the inspector, and if you click on timeline, it will get rid of the timeline. If we go back into Windows again, we can go into show Workspace, and we can now have the option of getting rid of the sidebar. And it's just a case of playing around with this, and now knowing this function, you can now set things in the way that you would like. For example, if you're just drag and dropping from your media sources that you've already imported into your timeline, this would be an ideal way to look at your workflow if that's the way, that's all you're focusing on for quite a period of time. If there's nothing to inspect, there's no reason to have the inspector open, and so forth. Now there are other things that you can do to your workspace to make things more fluent for your editing task or your editing style. For example, you can drag things around. So at the top, on the right hand corner here, as you can see, when I go in between the timeline and the effects panel, there is this icon that appears, which allows me to click, drag and hold to reshape this panel. And you can do the same for others as well. For example, the inspector and the preview window, making your inspector smaller. You can actually make it taller, longer as well. This I like the look of that, because you can just scroll through the panels here if you only like to see two at a time. It gives you inspector a full window as well. So if the inspector, a lot of the time beginner editors have the issue of not being able to see everything in the inspector. Another thing you can do as well is if there's something within the inspector that you don't need, for example these transformations here, you can hide them. You can hide the crop. As you can see, you've got a lot more space now, and you might think, actually I don't need all that space, so I can move this up. Another thing that you can do as well as dragging the spaces along is you can actually change the way things look. For example, in your timeline, you have different media previews that you can use, so that if your media is imported, you can make it look differently. And this may also decide what type of window spacing that you need. For example, dragging this from left to right after clicking on this icon will allow you to change the height of the clip. Using the zoom will also decide whether you need more space or not. And changing the way the clip is displayed within your timeline will also decide whether or not you need to change your timeline workspace or your workspaces in general. With the preview window, a thing that you can do as well is these icons at this information at the top can actually help you decide what to do with your workspace. For example, I'm actually looking at this preview at 25% of the size. If I change this to fit, this will now fit our window. If I change this from fit into another percentage, 200 for example, we've actually zoomed in, and now we need to move around our shot in order to look at the preview. If we bring it back to 100, you still need to move around, as you can see. But if we were to have more space, for example, if we get rid of the inspector, you will have more of the shot. And now let's get rid of the browser. You can see there's more of the shot, and now we're just literally moving up and down that shot. I'm actually going to change this back to fit, so you can now see that the preview fits our window. When we bring everything back, if it's in fit setting, it will still fit within that window. You can actually change the way things look in your browser window as well. If you're on the main browser panel, which has your project and the project file source just here and the file sources, you can actually go up to this icon here. This just stretches along so you can see more of it. You can actually go into these icons here, and you can change the way they are displayed within your browser. And there are various other things that you can experiment and play around with to help you with your workflow within Final Cut Pro 10. That is part 3 of our 10-part series here on Final Cut Pro 10 for you beginners. We will have a lot more for you as well, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if this has been helpful to you, or if you've enjoyed watching. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, guys, because I upload every single day here on Anthony Allen Edits. See you in the next upload.